Guys, Joe here. Welcome to the Knot Shop. As you may or may not know, I live in the Northeast, and it has gotten pretty cold here now. So, like I typically do during this time of the year, I'm shifting my projects indoors for the most part. I got some interesting stuff going on here. And basically decided to add a little capability to the shop. So I've got two projects going here that I'm going to be filming or recording over the next couple months. One of them is actually already pretty much done, or well on its way to being done, and that's what I'm going to show you in these next couple of videos. Now, there's not any machining content in any of this stuff, so if you're not into building kits and software and stuff like that, probably don't want to watch this. But what I did is I got myself a 3D printer kit and put it together and got it going, and I recorded some of it, not all of it, because it was incredibly boring. So I just, basically shot the highlights, and we'll show you that. Now, the first half of the video, or the first video in this series, the first part, is me unboxing it and building it, and then the second part of it is getting it going and printing some stuff with it. So anyways, I'll show you some of the things I did, and that's going to be one of them. Another one that I'm working on is on, can you see this? A recent dumpster, well, not so recent, but on a dumpster dive, I managed to come up with 3 linear encoders, and they work. But I don't have the decoder box for it in the display. And these encoders are the sine wave type. So I've got a project going on that I'm recording, again, electronics and software, that will show me building a 2-axis DRO for my lathe. And we'll be 3D printing the case for it. So anyways, let me show you what goes on here with what's involved with building a co-cell linear. It's a kit, and I'll give you a hint what's inside of this box. So yeah, this is a 3D printer. It's a kit, and it's not your typical printer, as you'll see here in a minute. I'll put up a picture to show you what this is supposed to be. This is what they call a co-cell printer. And the thing here about this is that for the money, this has better performance than the typical printer that you'd see, if you bought like a SourceForge or a DaVinci or something like that. So this is who designed this thing. And, boy, I wish they had packed it better, but it doesn't seem to be too destroyed. Anyways, I'll unpack this thing, and I'm sure there's directions somewhere in this box, and we'll see about putting this together. Okay, so the first part is we built some triangular frame with these three pieces right here. These. And DO1. 240 millimeter. Right, this looks like them. I mean, these all are the same size, right? Alright, I got this first assembly done. Went together pretty easy. Nothing special. You know, I went out to my shop to get my Allen wrenches, and I later found that they supply them, so that's kind of nice. The only real hard part was these little screws in here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They were, you know, you don't get a lot of swinging room with the Allen wrench, so it's kind of tedious getting those in. But I mean, it's a pretty strong assembly here. It's pretty amazing for 3 pieces of aluminum and 3 pieces of plastic. So the next one I got to build is a double height one. So I'll get back to you when I finish that one. Okay, so I figured I'd show how to put one of these things together. You gotta build the sides like this, and then it's kind of like a simultaneous operation here where you start them all at the same time, and hopefully you'll get it here. And when I first started putting this thing together, I got it like all put together, and then I was like, well, how do you assemble it, and how do you get the 3 pieces to slide together? And this is how you do it. Okay, now they're started. So you push them simultaneously, and then you gotta make sure these little square nuts go into these slots in the extrusion. And okay, that's it. So now what you got to do is go in here and tighten up every single one of these screws, and let me tell you, man, there's a ton of them. So alright, well, we'll get back to you when we finish tightening this up. So far, to make this piece here, which has little rollers in it and stuff, and to make this piece here, it's been about 1 hour and a quarter. So you know, I think this probably will end up being a 2-day project to assemble it. You know, I'll spend another couple of hours getting the basic frame done, and then I'll knock off, and tomorrow I'll finish all the mechanics, get all the electronics done, programmed, hopefully power it up. Now, there's no way it's going to print the first time I power it up. You got to calibrate it, you got to level it, you got to do all sorts of crazy junk to it. But, you know, we'll turn it on, see if any smoke comes out. Alright? Alright, so what you see in here is about 2 hours worth of work. Got the whole print head thing done with all that steery around stuff on it, and I got the base done with the 3 stepper motors. And what I got to do next is put the 3 linear rails on, which are right there. And I'd say this is probably halfway built by now. There's a long way to go, but I gotta say, it's a pretty good assembly. You know, the biggest problem I had was they didn't clean out the flashing out of the holes for these plastic things. So it's kind of a problem. You gotta clean them out with a drill bit. And just getting to the little screws that are like inside of these little angles in here. These things are kind of a pain in the ass, man. Same thing with these motor screws. I had to grind this
this Allen key down. There was about a quarter of an inch more on it, and I couldn't get it in there, so I had to cut it down on the grinder. But that's about it. I mean, it's a pretty good kit. It's well constructed. You know, if I had any complaints, it would be that everything's covered with aluminum dust. Because I guess when they saw these extrusions off, they just, you know, saw them and throw them in the box. They don't clean them off or anything. So you got to be careful of that. Especially, you know, there's some electronics that go in this thing. So as I've been going, you know, if I see some stuff on there, I'll clean it off. But yeah, it looks promising. So I'm gonna give it up for the night and start tomorrow. All right, we put the frames together. We get the rails in. Now, I gotta tell you, putting these rails in, man, was a friggin' nightmare. What they want you to do is load up a bunch of screws with nuts on the back and then slide it down into these slots in the extrusions. And man, the way that you have to have things set up to get them to fit down these extrusions means that you've only got the nut screwed onto the screw by like one thread. So, you know, you go along and you're screwing all these screws in, and then all of a sudden one of the nuts falls off the back. It's like you got to take the whole damn thing apart again and put it together. That happened to me like 4 or 5 times. You know, if Mr. Any Cubic in China is listening to this video, what you got to do is put like another millimeter on these screws here, so that you get a little more than one thread on them before they, you know, because it's a 50-50 chance when you tighten it up that it's going to just pull out and fall down inside of there. And it's a bummer, man. It took me longer to get these 3 linear rails on here than it did to build the whole rest of the thing. But they're on there, and the print head thing is on there. And you can kind of see how it works now. Okay, so this is how, you know, the thing's going to be controlled. So now what I got to do is I got to make up the belts. They give you this, and, you know, this is what they call belt tensioners here. So I got to thread all that up. I got the limit switches in, and, you know, the print head is all wired up. So yeah, pretty cool, eh? Alright, keep going here. Alright, it's starting to look like a printer. I got the belts put in, and that wasn't too hard. They give you a little extra so you don't have to go crazy measuring. I measured it out. They give you 4.5 meters, and they tell you to cut it up into 3 pieces. And if you work it out into English numbers, it's 59 inches per piece, and then you get a little extra left over, like 4 or 5 inches on each of them. So yep. Alright, well, that's the progress to on day 2 here so far.